Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated. We got CHADWICK Stokes here, everybody. That's how I say your name, right? CHADWICK Stokes?
Perfect.
Are Chads often Chadwicks? And I just didn't know? Or are they... What's the origin of the name Chadwick?
My real name is Charles, so it's like a nickname for that, which I don't think
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But my sister's name is Farley, so my folks didn't want to call me Charlie.
Charlie Farley?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It would have been a little much, maybe.
Yeah, that's cool. Chadwick is cool. I've never met another Chadwick. When you worked with Tchad Blake, did you ask him why he spelled his name?
Yeah, we had a big Chad.
T-Chad?
Yeah.
T-Chad Blake?
I felt him because I was like, I always dug the T when I first looked at the back of those Soul Coughing albums to see who produced it, and I was like, all right, because I remember looking at the old maps of Africa and seeing that Chad was spelled that way.
Yeah.
And basically he was like, yeah, he at some point changed it.
Yeah, he's like, I just wanted it to be different.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
He's so cool.
He's
amazing.
He is.
I love Jackie too. Jackie was the assistant. Jackie's Tchad Blake's wife, and she was the assistant engineer on my first record.
Wow.
At Real World. And it was funny because we would talk and she'd be like talking to me about how she had a crush on Chad at the time and stuff like that.
Oh, you got in the early days.
Before they got it together, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. I went riding with Jackie.
On the horse?
Yeah. And I was on Chad's horse, this giant, and I grew up on a small farm, so I knew how to ride, but it had been a while. And Chad's horse was big, like 18 hands, and she just took off. And the first couple minutes were a little dicey, but then I kind of caught my wind and settled down. But we were just flying through the woods.
Was it your first time on a horse? No.
I grew up around him, but it'd been maybe 3 or 4 years. And sometimes when you and if you're not used to the English saddle, which is feels different than the Western saddle, which is probably the last horse I'd been on was more Western. Yeah. But it was just such a big horse, and it had been a few years, and it just took a minute, but she took off, and I was just all over the place on this horse, galloping, trying to keep up to this horse, York, I think his name was trying to keep up to Jackie, and it took a couple minutes, but then it was great, and then by the end we were just flying through, it was like Robin Hood, and we were just flying through the little paths.
I don't think I've ever been on a horse. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't think so.
Too dangerous.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, if you're trying to jump shit, maybe. But
thank you.
Yeah, it is kind of dangerous.
I don't know. So where'd you grow up?
I grew up about 45 minutes west of Boston on a small farm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
no, it was super. It was woods, woods and fields. And
were your folks farmers or something?
Not really. My mom kind of was, and then my dad had different jobs, but he was less inclined. But my mom, and we lived with my aunt and uncle too, and my aunt was a horse vet, and so we had sheep, pigs, and ducks, and chickens, and dogs, and horses. So there was always sheep being born, or the twin horses being born and dead, stillborns. It was this, you get this early dose of
real life.
Yeah.
And what life is.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. It was that part of it was pretty fascinating.
Because I'm the opposite of that. I grew up in suburban Ohio, no animals, no pets, really. You know what I mean? So it's I can't imagine what that's like to sort of see life and all its horrible glory.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that would be good. I feel like that would be a healthier way of coming into the world in some kind of way.
Well, yeah, there's that whole, it's a natural
connection.
Yeah, it's real enough, but it also was, it also was pretty sheltered existence. It was we didn't, the neighbors were far away, so it was this insular family thing, and we still have the property, and my folks are still alive and still live there, and it's almost we're too attached to the
property,
we know every inch of it, and we can't but we can't leave. Like my siblings are all in and out, and we're trying to figure out what to do with it next. Anyways,
I see. Like as your parents get older, like how are they gonna like maintain a farm? Because that's a lot of hard labor, actually.
Yeah. And my dad kind of hobbles around, mending fence posts, and it's just like it's for time. But there's four siblings.
Leaving Shangri-La. Kind of
yeah. It feels like it would almost be healthy to like rip that, like tear that away.
But they're gonna resist that, probably.
Yeah, and we are too. So.
Sorry, I interrupted you though. You were saying about your siblings and.
Well, just everyone is. At one point, we've all moved back and lived there, and so it's like this fluid thing. Like one of us moves out because we have too many kids or whatever, and the other one moves in with his girlfriend, or one gets a divorce, moves back with her kid, that kind of thing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And is that healthy or is that against individuation?
That's felt healthy at the time, but we just moved last year, a year and a half ago, and it was time.
It was time. Yeah, because that can thwart your existence if you don't individuate from your parents.
Yeah, because we're like predestined to grow up into them anyway. So it's a little, you have to make some moves.
Yeah, you gotta kind of go out of the nest.
Yeah. Did you have siblings growing up?
I have a sister, and I guess I have a half brother who I've never met that I heard about like when I was older.
Huh. It's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Shout out to
whoever you are out there.
Tommy Arthur.
I found out about him when I was 26. So it was late in the day.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting.
There's a spirit out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
I guess it's kind of like it's just one of those, it's just a little piece of information that went into my brain, and it's just kind of ping pongs into confusion whenever I think about it.
With some of that ancestry.com stuff, that's happened to my wife too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she found out a year ago that she has a half brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because someone called her up out of the blue, or called one of her brothers up.
Yeah.
And they had to call their dad and be like, "Dad, did you know about this?"
He's like, "Yeah, of course I knew."
He's like,
"Yep."
That's my favorite shit.
Hey, come on, are you kidding? Did I know? I was there.
Wow.
Well, so on the farm, was there guitars around? How'd you make your intro into music?
Yeah, my dad was a pianist, so he would play. He's not very religious, but he would play like hymns, or Bach, as we were going to bed every night. So he had piano downstairs. We always had a piano.
He could play Bach and stuff?
Yeah, he's good. He's a good player, and he built a harpsichord too. That was there. That's still on the farm.
That's unusual. Most dads don't build harpsichords, bro. I'm not saying you had a leg up, but come on. It's a little bit of an unfair advantage.
He's a singer too. He sings, and he's kind of like, he's the type of dad that after you do a show, he'll be like, that harmonies on that third song, you got to work on that. That wasn't quite the right interval or something like that. He knows his stuff, and my mom's more carefree, more the hippie type. But we grew up. So piano was always in the house, and his mom played piano too. My dad's mom, and then when we started playing horn instruments, at least the three brothers did. We played trombone until my sister got a guitar when she was 13, and
You all played trombone?
One played trumpet, and two of us played trombone. Yeah.
Why'd you pick trombone? Or was it picked for you?
Well, I don't know. My
sounds like Dad was starting to start a band or something.
Yeah. Well, that's what's kind of funny. My uncle plays a tuba too, and he lives with us. We would have that gets pretty fun around.
Start a brass band
around the holidays. Yeah. We do some Dixieland. That's kind of our best. We have no one who plays the clarinet though. That'd be nice. But I think my mom says I chose the trombone because I knew no one would be in front of me, but I don't think that doesn't sound right to me. I think it's like seemed like the coolest thing. Like why wouldn't you pick the trombone?
Yeah, I mean that would be a really good T-shirt too. Why wouldn't you pick the trombone?
I mean it's got a slide,
just random.
Yeah, random.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah, I could see as a kid that seems to be the funnest.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
whole thing.
Exactly. You're in a circus or whatever. Did you grow up first on guitar?
Well, I started on piano.
You did.
There was a piano, and I took piano lessons, and then just the normal. I liked Kiss and Gene Simmons, and so I started playing bass.
Yeah.
And I got into like fusion.
Yeah.
And then I was in a blues band. We worked 5 nights a week in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Heavy, like during high school. So I got into it pretty young.
Yes.
That way. But didn't start singing until I was 21.
All right.
When did you?
You had to be talked into it.
Well, yeah, I sang to myself in the car, and I always
Yeah.
kind of like rated my voice. I always thought, man, I can do this.
Yeah.
You know? First time I heard myself, well, somebody in high school said, you got a terrible voice. That, you know, you always have a friend that says you have a terrible voice.
Yeah. It's hard to like your own voice.
Yeah.
I find.
Yeah. When did you start singing?
Pretty early on. We sang a lot on car rides and stuff. You know, we had
With the family?
Yeah, we had like Beatles records, all of us singing. The Hair, the musical,
Right.
was big in my house growing up. So we were singing about orgasms and masturbation way before we knew
what that was.
What was happening there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I still think that music's incredible when I listen to the bass lines that are in Hair.
I'm not that familiar with it.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was about masturbation.
Me neither.
Yeah, it's about acid trips and.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's awesome, man.
So your folks were kind of hippies then.
They were a little old to be hippies, but my aunt and uncle were hippies, and they lived with us in this little cottage.
Right.
And they had all the vinyl, but my folks lived in New York
it's almost
City.
commune-like.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, and like it would end up being like the de facto house for kids in the neighborhood too to come hang, and so it was.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it was a nice. And
They lived in New York City?
Yeah, my folks did.
When you guys lived on the farm?
No, beforehand when they were
before the farm.
Farm came right after New York City actually, so that was a big switch for them. My mom's from Jersey, my dad's from Delaware.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they lived up on Riverside. And
how long were they in the city before?
Probably like almost 10 years.
Yeah. I can understand that because I kind of like have a fantasy of like homesteading and all that.
Yeah.
You know, or getting that, living off the land, and there's something about that after city existed for as long as I have.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
To make that transition.
Yeah, it's alluring. So it was interesting to their little progression.
Yeah.
It was cool.
So trombone and Hair.
Yeah.
That was like the beginning stages.
Yes.
And then when did you first start writing songs?
Almost right away, just really bad songs.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom had written a poem, and I had just started learning chords, and I just did
On guitar?
Yeah, and I just did it right away. Started putting her words to music. You know, I was pretty naive, or just kind of like not really thinking about it. Yeah. Like I'm not, here I am writing a song. I was just like, let me try putting that to these chords, you know?
Yeah.
Just kind of blindly walking into it. And then started writing songs right away as like a, 13, 14-year-old, and tried a couple open mics.
Oh, really?
Because I had some older friends who were doing that. And
so you sang right away too?
Yeah. Kind of just like, whatever. This is like, it wasn't much, there wasn't much thought in it.
Nothing,
Yeah, I'm much more nervous if I have to talk in front of people, or if I have to like do a toast at a wedding. That really freaks me out. Or if I have to ask a question in like a big forum.
Mm-hmm.
Just my whole body's like, I can feel my heart and my fingertips.
Yeah, public speaking is like supposed to be one of the biggest fears people have.
Yeah, I'm okay kind of especially with the guitar on. It's helpful.
Well, when you can go into a song,
I
mean, it helps.
Yeah,
because I want to try stand-up comedy, and I do like some of that while I'm performing, but I have music to always fall back on.
Are you usually playing it?
No, not
or someone else's?
I just go into asking the audience if they have any questions, and then just like getting a thing going on. I love all that.
Yeah,
like it's fun as hell to me.
That's really cool. That's good for the audience too.
Yeah,
because that's what I would want to see.
Right.
You know, I know the songs. I want to hear them talk.
Yeah.
Typically.
I like awkwardness too. I love that.
Yeah. I have a friend who's exactly like that. He gives the most awkward toasts if we're at a wedding of a friend of ours. You know, it really like people, you know, it's not a good thing. It's very uncomfortable, but some people get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
And it's entertaining. Can be hilarious.
Yeah. So then you went to, did you have bands in high school or something, or did you stay solo?
My like rock band I was in some bands. I was in like these kids lived on this farm across town, and there's 3 brothers, and they needed a singer, so they knew I sang a little bit. So I was like, when I was 10, and they were like 9, 11, and 14. And they played bass, drums, and guitar. And they really taught me, you know, they introduced me to The Who and Zeppelin and Sabbath and later Nirvana. And so we were our own little, like, you know, family band for a while. But then the trombone seemed to be like a very good, around that time also was a nice ska scene in Boston. And so I was playing, we were doing like Mighty Mighty Boss Stones covers. Mighty Boss Stones. Yeah. And so I was playing trombone, and even when I got to college, trombone was kind of my entrance into these different bands.
Because you were kind of an expert at trombone.
Well, I wasn't that good, but I was like, I knew how to play, and like no one in a band's like, hey, we need a guitarist, you know. But people of that, you know, if they're playing funk or ska, they need trombones. You know, it's not like we're a dime a dozen. So it was an easy way to get gigs at school.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you still play trombone?
Kind of just around the holidays.
Yeah.
And in this recording studio, I'll do it. Yeah. Although on this last record, I played trombone, and it's funny. The last thing I did with Tchad Blake, one of the final things I did with him was we did trombone on this one song, and it was one of the last things we did. And he goes, man, he's like, I fucking love that. I wish that was the last thing we did on this record. I wish that's how we were capping off this session, because that just sounds fucking amazing. Because I overdubbed myself playing. He's like, it sounds like a trombone section of 6th graders. I fucking love it.
Oh, really? So that's something Chad would say.
You know, so it's like, it was like raw and just bad enough, just out enough, but also cool enough, you know.
Right.
I like Cursive too, that band. You know that band Cursive?
Uh-huh.
They're from, and that's like heavy, it's like heavy distortion with horns, you know, and I was kind of going for that sound with Chad a little bit.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's funny that Chad would dig the kind of, I don't know, immature kind of rawness of
the outness.
Yeah.
He goes for the outness.
He does. I had to bring him back sometimes.
Oh yeah?
Well, he would want the hi-hat like so fucking loud. And he's like, no, that's its thing. Like, that's the identity of that song. And so
right.
Most of the time I acquiesce, because you got to trust Chad. So, but it was, there was one second when I was doing something that was way above my range, and I was just like squeaking and squealing, like doing an octave above the main melody line on this outro. And he just, and I had to really belt it. Like, I wanted it to be like Kurt Cobain, kind of like screaming, but like not kind of just out, and you're not supposed to be singing those notes, and it's clear. And he just stopped me halfway. You know when you're singing and you got to get into it, because it's a part that needs that emotion or whatever, and then like it just stops, you know. And I was like something wrong, and he was just like, you know, and he's just like, yeah, this isn't working.
Oh, that's so hardcore.
I just like scream.
Come on, Chad. Yeah. I mean, can't you just dip it down and put some verb on it? It would work, bro. Let him finish the thing.
I know, just let me finish.
Come on, Chad. That's still harsh.
It was harsh. But he doesn't pull punches, you know.
No,
he knows what he wants.
Yeah, it's true.
We love him for it, so.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Chad knows he's loved. He gets shouted out on this podcast quite a lot.
What album did you do with him?
He's mixed. Well, I mean, he mixed "In the Sun" from "Come to Where I'm From."
Okay, that
he mixed all he mixed "Redemption Sun," all of that. He sequenced Junkyard Hearts EPs 1, 2, 3, and 4. He mixed The Family.
Wow.
And he mixed what else did I put out? I think recent stuff too. Oh, he mixed Arthur Buck, my band with Peter Buck.
Nice.
Recently.
Yeah, you play with a lot of different people, right?
Yeah.
Did you play with Sybil Buck?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Couple of bucks.
Yeah.
What the buck?
What the buck?
She was in Lonely Astronauts.
So you know Sybil, huh?
I met her at a fun-loving criminal show back in the day.
Yeah.
And my wife's name is Sybil.
Oh, okay.
Actually.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I think I saw that.
Yeah. But I remember seeing that she was playing with you. It's cool.
How many records did you make with Chad?
Just one.
Just one.
Although I'd like to make more.
Yeah, I would too. I would like him to maybe mix this new thing I'm working on right now.
Yeah, it seems like he's mixing more now.
Yeah, he basically, I feel like that's the thing. I want to go there and record with him, but
yeah.
he's kind of like, just send me shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't want you to come here.
He's like,
you know what, bro? Just send me the files. Do we
Send me
really,
the- we don't
really
need
need
to
to
do
do this? Do I need you looking at me while I'm mixing?
yeah, just send me it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's right on.
What year was that when you were at Real World and doing that?
I think it was
You said 2006?
6. Yeah, it was actually maybe before that.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Because he moved to Wales not too long, like a year or two after
Yeah.
that. And I haven't visited him in Wales. I'd love to.
Me neither.
I knew the next time I saw Buck and Stan that they were going to be giant.
Yeah.
You know those feelings when you're with someone and you really connect with them, and they have kids, and you're like, you know that when you say goodbye, you know you're saying goodbye for a long time. And I knew when they were like 5 and 6 years old or whatever, 5 and 7, and I knew the next time. And I haven't seen him again yet, but I've seen pictures.
Yeah.
And they're giant, they're all tall and skinny.
And amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in like that song. What's it? Is that song called Elias? Is that?
Yeah.
Where you even have a lyric along those lines, like, will I
yeah.
ever see you again?
Yeah.
Will you be alive? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or something along. So you must think of
and if you die, will I get word that you're gone?
Oh, right. That
thing.
part, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because you went to Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you connected, and then when you leave something like that, will I even know?
Yeah. Especially in those days, and
without the internet.
Yeah. You just, and from a rural town in Zimbabwe,
right?
There's no telling, like, there was so much more separation back then, and still is to this day in terms of, it's not like his it's pronounced Elias, and it's not like he's on, it's not like he has a smartphone or anything like that.
Right. I went to northern Uganda a while back, and I had the similar feelings when I was leaving. I just started crying because it was just like the connections you make, are just like
they kind of
transitory.
Go up and smoke a little bit.
What made you go to Zimbabwe?
I was right out of high school and just looking to get as far away from my little town as I could.
Why?
I just wanted to see the world. I wanted to like break free.
Yeah.
So
was that supported by your family?
Yeah, we knew a family over there
that
I could go stay with.
Oh, okay.
And it was the furthest. It was the furthest away that we knew someone that would take me in. So.
How long were you there?
It was fascinating. 6 months.
That's a long time.
Yeah. I played a lot of guitar there. Would go down to the townships and just play music. And there were other, like kids who made guitars, and we'd play together and just kind of hang. And a lot of places, it was really novel to be like a white kid. And so just walking through the village, You
get embraced.
Yeah. And it'd be like people running, probably like in northern Uganda.
Running up to you and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and it's nice once you're there and it kind of keep coming back too. It's like, I don't know, it was a different mindset down there too, right? So you learn a lot by how, what happiness is or what makes someone happy. And when I was in Zimbabwe, it was okay, but there was still like, it was kind of ravaged by AIDS, there were open fields with open graves and just waiting for the people to die, and people were dying so quickly, and so many of them. And then it went into even worse political turmoil and civil war, and but it's there's that almost like that farm connection we were talking about. You know, the people who I met there were just so connected to life itself that they seem to be able to tap into I don't know, maybe a gratefulness, or they didn't take anything for granted, like we do sometimes over here.
Yeah, we have to work on gratitude.
Yeah,
make gratitude lists and remind ourselves to be grateful.
Yeah,
and even that, like, just full disclosure for me, has this agenda in my head. Like, if I'm grateful, I'll cultivate more things to be grateful for.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
not just in and of itself to be grateful.
Right.
You know. But it's difficult. Life is difficult, and you know, it's always to me, it's always a duty of getting your state of mind into a positive place every day. That's the mission.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
What do you do towards that? And do you consciously work on those kind of things? Or?
My therapist told me I should, but I'm not. It's like I don't get around to it. But I have 3 little kids, and they're pretty good at
making you
connecting
grateful.
You. Yeah. We could also, well, you know, when you're you know, you always feel like, especially when they're tiny, it's like you're just grateful to get through the day without
dropping
them or banging their head on the corner as you know. So if you can just get by without some serious like that, so that in that way you're just like grateful that they're alive.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings me to earth the most.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me grateful.
So when you were in Zimbabwe and they were living off the land and connecting to gratitude via just a natural lifestyle, was that something you could relate to by growing up on a farm, or was it dissimilar, or was it similar?
It felt pretty removed from the farm, just in that the simplicity. There's some simpleness in growing up on a farm, but there's also a lot going on, and there was simplicity in the lives of in the village where I was living, and it's, you know, where wasn't quite like this on the farm. In the farm you have like there's tractors, and this needs to happen today, and it's kind of like this work, and you work your way through time on a farm. But I felt like where Elias lived, let's say, in this it was a place called Section 17, which I mentioned in the song. But like him and his 2 kids and his wife, they all lived in this little hut, and they all sleep on this one mattress, and all they have is a cupboard with a little bit. I don't know, in northern Uganda, like if you went to drink with someone, they'd have water, and then they'd pour a little syrup in, and that would be like your juice, you know. And so like that would be the extent of what they
would
had.
drink a lot of stuff, like this alcohol thing, out of plastic bags.
Yeah, the beer halls, man. There was some dicey moments, like hitchhiking through. I don't know if you did some traveling, but hitchhiking through some of these places, and you wind up in a beer hall, and the sun's going down, and you're like this white kid around a bunch of drunk men, and it's, you know, and you're trying to hitchhike out of there, trying to get to, you know, back to where we were coming from or something, and it's just like, you know, where you're just like a little bit too out of place, and should probably be getting a move on it. But that beer is like, it's like it's like drinking, I don't know, just like soured barley. It kind of
was it out of plastic bags?
I've seen it out of plastic bags, but I'm remembering like the plastic buckets, almost, you know, bucket like this big, you know, like
bucket of beer,
like 10 inches wide, and you're just, you know, kind of just passing it around the concrete white concrete beer hall in the middle of nowhere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you set up like a charity organization of some sort. What's that called?
Yeah, right at, let's see. We had the Elias Fund.
Right, the Elias Fund.
And then the Dispatch Foundation kind of brought that into the fold when that band Dispatch got back together in 2007 to play up at MSG. That was all called like Dispatch Zimbabwe. And we raised money for different programs in Zimbabwe, like clean water and housing and that kind of thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
How is that still active?
Not really. Zimbabwe became even almost too hard to work in. You couldn't get in there. Even the aid groups that went in there were just like run out of town. And we still are connected with the family that I stayed with and Elias. And through them, like we're working, there's a medical clinic that we've over the years have put some money into, that in the nearby town. So stuff like that, we're still involved, but you can't go in as like an aid organization. You just have to know people who are doing good shit there and try to funnel them a little money. Right.
Yeah, it is difficult. That kind of stuff.
Complicated.
Yeah, it almost has to be like you have to be fully consumed by it, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, yeah, or know someone who is, right?
Yeah, or have somebody organizing it who is. Yeah. So, what was it? How did you come about writing that song? That was like a big hit, wasn't it?
Yeah, for us.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound like it was trying to be. It sounds very loose.
Yeah.
And just like free and and inspired by the sounds that you encountered.
Yeah, there. The first bit of it is it came about when I taught at the school a little bit to sixth graders, and they would sing this one song over and over again, and so I just figured out the chords to that song and then and learned it myself, and it's just like a.
So that's the first part of it.
Yeah,
it's like a traditional song,
right? And then what they thought was so funny was then I started singing
words,
my own song using in Shona. So so then the second part of that song is me. I'm still singing in Shona, but it's like I'm making it up, and they thought that was hilarious, and then the song goes into English and kind of tells the story of Elias. But the first part is just like it's like a traditional song, and then it just evolved. Our that's probably our second most popular song, but our first most popular song is called The General, and that was also really haphazard. Like we recorded it. One of the guys was sick, so I was playing bass for like the first time, and we were up in Burlington, Vermont. This guy Danny Archer was just hungover and falling asleep, so we would press record, and just the two of us press record, and he was like asleep on the couch. And
come on, Danny, dig deep.
We were you would like this. He kept calling us he would be like, all right, you guys ready? He's like, come on, you my little Spanish bags of drainage.
Wow.
That's what he kept calling us.
So I guess pro tip, if you want to hit record, give yourself the worst nickname possible.
It was really, we didn't think anything would come from that, and it just goes to show you, I guess.
How do you explain it? How do you explain the massive success of it?
I think Napster was really good for us.
Why? Why?
Because that song, The General, was when, at least this is how it comes back to us. They say, the timing was just right. We were just gaining a little bit momentum as a touring band. Mm-hmm. And like that, starting in the Northeast and building out. We used to play the Wetlands, almost every month.
Which is a big place.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's relative.
But it was, you could.
Square Gardens, but Wetlands was like what?
It was like almost 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And it was all strange, right? They would just pack them in.
Yeah.
But so we did have this like good word of mouth going, and it started it started at like the Wetlands in the Middle East in Boston, and we'd play there.
That's another great club.
Yeah, and we'd play there, and then it would be like by the third time we played there, there'd be lines around the block, and that was cool. So there was this thing happening, and then Napster hit, and then we were asked to like play a college play Pomona, playing out in California, and all of a sudden everyone knew the words there. So I think The General was like our gateway song, and then people went deeper. But a lot of people said when I first got Napster, the first song that I shared with my mates was this song, The General. So it was kind of like this, almost like this flagship for file sharing for people who, I don't know what scene that was, because we weren't quite in the jam scene or
college,
like maybe the college, high school even. We go and play high schools, like community centers and stuff. So
interesting. So when that was happening, were you like, this fucking rocks? Like, weren't you stoked?
I was, yeah, but we kind of didn't know any better because we were just kids. We're like 19, 20.
Yeah, so you just like,
so just like, oh, this is happening.
Yeah.
It was when I started state radio, like 6 years later, and thought that I'm just going to start another band, and I'll take a third of the crowd, the third of the dispatch crew,
right?
Crowd, and
we'll follow.
Yeah, we'll just roll.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh shit, my wife and I were like starting over.
Yeah.
And no one knows that, especially if you're not, and people don't connect the dots as much as you think they are. They like a band, but they don't necessarily know that Chadwick in that band started another band, and that's called State Radio. So it was like starting over. So it wasn't until then where
everybody
I was
doesn't live inside of your head. Turns out
they don't.
Yeah, like similar happened to me, and because I put out my first record, and it kind of like went off in France, and that was where it was released first. And so I went over there, and I went, from like working minimum wage jobs to like going to France and like having like a lot of people show up, and I'm like, okay, this, I guess. And then it was getting ready to come out in America, so I figured, okay, well, this is just going to keep happening.
How it goes. Yeah,
this is how it goes. And then I went from playing like big rooms, happening in France, to like coming and playing in front of 6 people in Alabama, like going like, oh no, what the hell is this?
What happened?
What happened here? Same album.
Yeah, it's crazy how.
Yeah. So
I have these moments sometimes when I'll go do I'll get a random show from like a friend of mine who's like, hey, do you want to do this? I'll be like, sure. And I'll go do it, and it'll be like some miscommunication from the promotion or the people putting it on, and I'll find myself in a lobby in Miami playing to no one as people are walking by, and I'm basically doing the same exact thing that I did in front of, in 100,000 people in Boston.
Right.
I'm playing the same thing, and no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
And it's just like this. I'm sure you've had those situations where you're just like,
more than you can possibly imagine, Mr. Chadwick Stokes. More than you can possibly imagine.
I think you're downplaying the Napster thing a little bit, because Napster is always like everyone. It was this evil thing that destroyed the music world, and it's a very particular era. And it was the first file sharing thing. It's like the original Spotify or something. And
you could
guys
share
had
it.
no radio play, and it's still. It was as big as Napster was. You became that big in a way because of it.
Yeah, no, that was huge. That was perfect timing. We were an independent band, unsigned, and so it was like when you had all these big bands saying, "Oh, it's evil" or whatever. You
felt like traitors, didn't you?
We felt.
Didn't you? Like, come on. I don't think he downplayed it though. He said basically exactly what you just.
It was big.
Well,
Napster was a big deal.
And Sean Fanning's from
and Lars from Metallica going after it and trying to shut it down.
And
it was like.
Did you feel like Benedict Arnold?
I felt like we were like the revolution, like we were the little people rising up, and so Sean Fanning's from Massachusetts as well.
Oh, okay.
So we became friends, and he started Napster.
So did he insert your song at the top of the list or something, or
maybe
what?
he was a fan, so he must have been in his early playlist. Maybe it was in the beginning.
Napster was huge for me personally. It changed my life.
all of a sudden you had access to everything. We went out and we weren't testifying, but we went down to D.C. to support him during his congressional hearing. And you can see us and Chuck D was next to us. Chuck D was on our side, and you can see us there's like YouTube. You can see us nodding our heads right behind Sean Fanning, and meanwhile there's these like congressmen and women up there trying to kind of read him the riot act.
Why were you supportive of it though? Because doesn't it take from musicians ultimately, or wasn't that like, I'm surprised to hear that Chuck D was in support of it, and I'm not even trying to throw a sideways diss towards like,
no,
it's not like you guys chose to be in that position. It's obviously like a good thing for you, and anyone would embrace that. I think it gave us a career where we wouldn't have had one, so we were,
you
might have had a different one.
Different, so we were in some way indebted to that technology.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
but what was Chuck's D stake in it? Like, why was he going, no, these guys should be able to do this?
I think he was maybe it was like a freedom to, like, it's not something the government or anyone should clamp down on. He was embracing this is the new way.
Well, it's interesting because we're like right on the cusp of YouTube enacting all kinds of new regulations, and new policies, and shutting down many more many people's platforms. And obviously that started with more extreme right-wing leaning things, and so people kind of like it couldn't really defend that, and because if you did, then you were called a fascist or whatever. But now it's going into like health food channels and really, really like wild things like that. In terms of what's your feeling along those lines? Does the sort of assault maybe on some level of freedom of speech concern you in any kind of way, or what do you think?
It's been interesting watching like AOC grill Zuckerberg about who else was doing that recently? Some other really high profile person really coming on hard on Facebook for not fact checking an ad, like a Republican ad or whatever. And then Zuckerberg's he's like, well, it's not our place to really, we want to let people put out whatever they want, and so he's getting a lot of criticism. I guess I'm not really sure. I tend to think that, in those situations, I tend to be like, whatever AOC is saying, I'm going to take her criticism of Zuckerberg, I'm going to take that seriously because I trust where she's going with it, as opposed to Zuckerberg, who's just saying, he's kind of being like, oh, that freedom should be able to, we're not going to censor anything, we're just going to let people say what they want.
What about the YouTube platforms though, like the health food channels and stuff like that?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know that much about it either. I just like, there's some YouTube channels I follow that are like saying, well, we're going away, and they basically like promote, I don't know, vegan diets or this, that, and the other. And it's like, really? Like, they're getting taken down?
They're getting forced out?
It seems odd. You know, like that seems a bit like what's going on here? It's like, why is there this odd control of the information? And then also, why is it almost like people who lean left are almost afraid to say, hey, what's up with freedom of speech? And people who lean right are like, hey, what's up with freedom of speech? Like, it's almost like inverse world. And if you say, hey, I'm for freedom of speech, suddenly that's almost like you're a fascist. And it's like, why should me saying, hey, I'm for free speech have any connection to like, once they connect those two things, to me, that's a spooky place the world is getting into.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like I should have to be like concerned if I say, hey, I think freedom of speech is important, that I would then get accused of being in any way a fascist.
Yeah.
Like, and the fact that that's even a sentence I could say is concerning.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're kind of accusing Zuckerberg of. It is kind of that the propaganda, like being a conduit for propaganda.
Right, but it's a slippery slope because it's like because it starts with like removing Alex Jones, but then it goes to removing vegan channels or channels that are promoting alternative health things, and then so suddenly it seems like big pharma's involved and all that kind of stuff. Not to go all political and controversial, and I know these are sensitive things to talk about, so we can go back to like
big
talking about other things.
Let's get into big pharma, the evil.
But I'm just saying, it's like it's just it's interesting because the reason I brought it up is just because of the Napster connection too. Like that was like
I think Napster didn't have any money involved in it, which was what was different about the whole thing. It wasn't like YouTube or Facebook.
I think we're going to get taken off of YouTube just by me saying, but honestly though, honestly, like just even saying what I just said.
Right. Google has shut us down already. This is not happening.
Like, this is like, we're done.
Like, this episode.
I'm glad to be part of your final podcast.
Well,
episode 60, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
60.
Yeah, this is it. 60, right?
Congratulations.
Well, okay, getting off of that topic then. I wish that wasn't a sensitive subject though. To me that's alarming that is a sensitive subject. I feel that's alarming.
That connection between fascism and free speech that you spoke of that's one to we could dive deep in that.
Do you want to, or do you want to go off of it? Because you probably don't want to. I don't want to.
I'm not
either.
sure I would have much insight.
Yeah.
But I am. It does.
Does it concern you?
Yeah.
I'm concerned. I feel like it's not as easy to figure out where we're at anymore. Like it's getting more confusing and more extreme. Who's that Tulsi? What's her name? Tulsi
Gabbard?
Yeah.
Gabbard?
I saw her interviewed on Joe Rogan. I really like where she was coming from. She seemed very like, I don't know, just measured and just like, and also she spoke on the whole like, we should protect people's right to express themselves. But she's also, I think, left leaning. She's a Democrat, so it's like, I don't know. She seemed like a interesting candidate to me. But,
this is going to be fascinating.
It's going to be wild, dude. Hold on to your socks. I don't know what that means. I don't know why I picked socks to hold
I like
to,
that.
But yeah,
I like that.
Like just let's hold on.
Hold on. Keep those feet.
Well, it's a good time
covered.
It's a good time to make music. It's a good time to express these ideas and these fears and these thoughts within songs. I feel like that might be actually a safer conduit than even just speaking directly about them, because I don't know, songs what do you think on that?
Billy Bragg said that once, something like that. You can say things in a song that you can't just say.
That's right.
Like we're doing now, we can.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn this into a song.
Save yourself.
Yeah.
Hold on to your socks.
Hold on to your socks. It's getting weird, folks.
It is a crazy time. When Trump was first elected, I could not. I was in shock for months. I couldn't. People were asking, "Are you writing a lot of political stuff?" No, I couldn't process it.
Yeah.
But recently, it's all I can write about. So I need to wean myself off that because I'm becoming very one-dimensional.
Right.
So I guess I just need a little time, and now it's all coming out, but it's like, oh, here's another song about this or that, and it's a bit depressing. What are
you writing songs about?
Just like what a criminal he is, and like the craziness of how there's so many who are locked up in this country who aren't even convicted, because they can't pay bail, or they're on minor drug offenses and they get thrown in jail, and largely black men or men of color, and here we have this white privileged man who's what he's doing is so much more harmful than, and here he is almost celebrated, so that kind of push and pull on what's happening there.
What's that song called?
One's called Criminal, just right now that's its working title. But it's, has lyrics like, like you've dry fucked your soul so many times. It's
Wait.
disintegrated. And then so that song's like just about kind of Trump, how crazy this is, that he's like this megalomaniac, narcissist who's doing things that are indeed criminal, yet of course he's shit's happening now with some of the impeachment, but his reality, and even understanding my own reality as a white male, and how much easier things have been for me as opposed to someone who grew up 45 minutes from me or whatever in the city, my black friends growing up in the different reality they have had in their life. And I feel like that's a continuing evolution. And we do a lot of work with my wife and I's organization is called Calling All Crows, and we do a bunch of work that, in keeping with the Elias Fund and over the years, but in different areas of the world. And the last couple of years, we've been focusing on our industry and domestically, and the sexual violence and assault that happens at shows, and so also understanding the different reality of being a woman and walking into a rock show, going to see a show, than it is for us. I never thought when I was going to see whatever bands in Boston, like, I got to look over my shoulder.
Right.
I might get groped tonight, or just to have that nervous feeling or that anxiety. I never felt that, So there's been a big, I'd say for me, I'm continuing to learn about the different reality, that is not mine, and thinking about that. So I think that's been a big part of our life too, the last few years.
There's a massive awakening, I guess, going on right now.
Yeah.
In a way, too.
Yeah.
It's the so much information that people can teach themselves about all kinds of things, and of course the Me Too movement and everything like that has like woken people up.
Yeah. But there's the Me Too I talked to some guys who are kind of bristle at the Me Too movement, and actually we talked to a mother who kind of bristled at it too. Like it's interesting, the different takes that I didn't see coming. What one mom said, she kind of rolled her eyes at the Me Too movement, and that's the first time I'd seen a woman do that. And we were like, what are you getting at? She's like, oh, my teenage daughters, it's like, I don't want my child thinking she has to fill some kind of victim quota, or like status. If you have a victim story, you go kind of hunting for it so that you have this status. I don't know. Maybe it's too derivative of the. I think it's too derivative, like the accountability that these men need to face. And I think it's a good. I feel so thankful that the Me Too movement happened, and that it's happening, and that there is this accountability that's happening for men. They can't get away with X, Y, and Z like they could before, or for it to be celebrated. So I think it's very important. But it is funny the different reactions that we get.
Well, it's complicated.
Yeah, it's
people
clear.
are complicated, so therefore it's complicated. But
Yeah.
Where's the organization? How can people contribute? And what's it called?
Calling All Crows.
Calling All Crows. What's that name mean?
That came from a song about kind of women empowerment, and the whole organization is based on kind of gender, like women's rights and gender equality.
Yeah.
And over the years, we've done a bunch of different campaigns, and this one is Here for the Music. It's called, and we've done a bunch of trainings before shows with the venue staff and fans who come early to the shows to do. They're called active bystander trainings, where you talk about the different situations that happen, and you give these tools to either cope with being assaulted, or when you see something, it gives you ways to de-escalate.
Before the show?
And so we go through this training, like a half an hour training
before the show.
Yeah.
You go on stage and talk to the
we'll
audience?
be like in a corner. We'll be in a corner, not like the proper show.
Oh, okay.
It'll be like 3 hours earlier.
Oh, I see.
And we'll set up chairs in a room like this, in like the green room, and we'll just talk about it. And we have,
and fans come and
and other bands have taken it on too. That they Calling All Crows. People who work for Calling Crows will go out and tour with other bands and do the same for them.
Interesting.
And
what will they say? Like, just give me an example. Like,
sure. Like, what you mean the bystander stuff?
Well, just like I'm curious.
Like
so people come to the venue and
Yeah.
they sit like sort of classroom style.
Yeah.
And it's like what, 30, 40 people
Yeah.
or more? Okay.
Yeah.
Like not the
Yep.
whole audience, but like 30 or 40.
Right. Not everyone wants
And
to come to
then-
a bystander training before the shows.
Imagine that. So and then do you teach, or is there specific like teachers there?
I've done it, but I'm not as good as our executive director Kim is amazing at it. And sometimes Sybil and I will do it.
And what will you say? What will
So there's kind of like a script that we go through.
Yeah.
And one of the main ideas is like these, you can delay, you can distract. It's like 4 Ds.
Basically, this is if in case of a woman's in a situation where
Yeah,
she's getting groped.
could be a
by-
man or a woman, but yeah, any kind of thing where it's like the power dynamics being abused, or usually it's like the classic situation is like an older man and a younger woman, but it could be anything, any gender, and we even pass out these scripts where we role play. This was when we first did it. This was the most uncomfortable thing. And you're like, you have different situations, and you're with like, you switch, you break off into groups, and then you do that situation just to get in the practice, because it is
acting out the situation.
Yeah, and it
where
is
it's like creepy dude.
Yeah,
or-
it's
or
like,
a
okay,
girl.
I'll be the creepy dude. You be like the unassuming girl. Or
I
whatever.
like that. I'd rather
then-
be the unassuming girl than the creepy dude.
You're the security, but there's stuff like, distract seems to be the most popular one, where you kind of go up to that situation and you say, hey, do you know where the bathroom is or something? You give that person an out. You just kind of break up the energy of that scene, or you just get close.
You say to the person who's being creepy, do you know where the bathroom
Either
is?
one, or hey, will you take this picture of me and my friend? Or you just kind of hang out there for a second and try to get a bead, because you never really know what's going on until you get a little bit more information, but you also don't want to wait until it escalates, because if you catch something happening before it escalates, then you interjecting into that situation doesn't have to be like throwing a bomb in the middle of you don't have to like get in his face or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You can just kind of, before it gets there, you can kind of try to like just give that person an out and be like, hey, can I, have
Almost
you ever
like dismantling a bomb?
Yeah,
in
you
a
just
way.
be like, hey, have you ever seen this? Did you see this poster over here or something? You can do something where it's like you just kind of take the energy out of the situation and give that person an out, and that person might be like, what are you talking about? And then you're like, okay, cool. So, I can't say that I've done it. There's probably been a handful of times where it's, now that I kind of know what to look for, and I used to think if you saw something, you'd have to like get in that guy's face, right? And
But it's better.
you don't have to do that.
Yeah, it's almost like more Zen-like or something.
Yeah.
Zen approach or something.
Yeah.
How did you come to this conclusion to start this organization? I mean, what was the impetus?
I think because we were.
Did you hear about a bunch of situations and you're like, we got to change this?
Yeah, I think a lot like fans coming back to us about certain shit that's happened at shows, or just talking, like it's the kind of thing like once you start talking about it, more and more information, and the statistics are amazing about how many women. So we got hired by Superfly, which is a promoter for Bonnaroo and a bunch of other. Some of the festival promoters have hired Calling All Crows to go down and be a presence and do some trainings at the big festivals. And so our crew would go down there, and something like 85% of women who are going to these concerts have at one point been sexually assaulted, some crazy stats, and so So once we just started thinking about it, and it, it kind of percolated up. There's this story, okay. And we'd also been we'd kind of been international in where we were pointing our energy, and so it also felt good to kind of swing back here and be like, well, what can we do here and focus on our own industry? And felt like it was like kind of a natural thing to do if we are a women's rights organization, and here's this shit that's happening right. It's not happening in Sudan or Afghanistan. It's just like this shit right in front of us.
And have you gotten any feedback of like situations that have been dismantled due to this program?
Yeah, we've gotten some good feedback. Sometimes too, when we're doing the training, some people will speak up and say, "This happened to me at your show, 2 years ago," or whatever. You get so that's also like, it's troubling, but it's also like, okay, well, I'm glad we're doing this because it's. I think you think of a show like a Motley Crue or something, or you're like, where it's kind of. But this is happening.
Stadium tour, Motley Crue and Poison, and
kidding.
They definitely could use you. I'm sure. I mean, Motley Crue.
Yeah, but you should do it in front of the entire stadium.
What is it? It's Motley Crue.
Def
Leppard, yeah.
Poison,
and Joan Jett.
Joan Jett.
This summer.
The Joan Jett documentary was amazing.
I didn't see it.
Oh,
is it on Netflix?
I saw it on the plane.
Oh, okay.
Delta.
I gotta check that out.
It's really good.
Okay.
It's like it's really cool. It talks about like the early days, and
so you didn't watch
it's so raw.
The Dirt.
I haven't read or watched The Dirt, but I wouldn't mind.
That's pretty good. So going back to like your kind of like entrance into the music business though, so you went to college in New York, right? I
went to college for a year in Vermont.
Oh, okay.
And then I went to the New School in New York, and then I went to NYU for another few months.
What did you study?
I was in Gallatin, so you could kind of choose your own adventure, and I never finished, so I was kind of doing whatever classes looked cool. Most of those were like
becoming an adult sort of thing.
Yeah, most of those were like, there were some music classes, some I like history, so there was a bunch of history classes and like politics and some writing, I think. Also played on the NYU club hockey team.
Really?
And that was fun too.
You play hockey?
Yeah.
How'd you learn that?
Well, I grew up playing ponds, playing a lot of pond hockey, and then our high school team was folding because not enough kids were, because it's a small town, so not enough kids were playing hockey. So a bunch of us like basketball players and skiers, we quit our sports and we joined the hockey team, and we were just a bunch of like bad news bears on skates, like a bunch of stoners on the ice getting our ass kicked.
Yeah.
But we'd played so much in the ponds. We had lights over the ponds in our town, so we'd play till like 3 a.m.
That sounds fun.
It's so much fun.
Do you still play?
Yeah. Now I'm trying to get my kids in it. It's the one thing I'm forcing my kids to do.
That's cool. It's good. I just like went to a party the other night, and this guy told me this because I got way into athletics recently. I mean, about 4 years ago, I got into boxing, and then I'm like super into yoga. I go every day.
Whoa.
Yeah, I went today. I'm gonna go after this podcast.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm like obsessed with it.
That's the life.
I love it, but and I like would judge my sort of love of athletics in a way because it has this kind of knucklehead vibe to it too. Like not yoga so much, but like, if you're into that, it means it's like anti-intellectual on some level.
Yeah, and well, the jock thing never doesn't really match with the muso thing either.
Right.
Too well.
Exactly. But then this guy at this party, he's like a biologist or something. He told me this, and it clicked. It was like the brain arose to facilitate movement. Like that is the ultimate purpose of the brain. Like organisms that have brains move, organisms like plants that don't move. And so he said the whole purpose of the brain is to facilitate movement.
Wow.
So when you're in motion, that's actually when your brain is operating at its best.
Yeah.
And even like working on things like art, or if you have a personal problem and you go on a run and you ask your brain like, hey, help me out with this. Now let me go run. Your brain will like the connections into your subconscious will open up more and everything like that. Once he told me that, I just was like, okay, now I know why I'm into this.
Wow, yeah, that's cool.
So it's good that you're forcing your kids to do that.
Have you been doing other things besides boxing and yoga?
Boxing and yoga, and I run. I'm running on these barefoot shoes.
Oh, my brother has those.
I love them.
He loves them. I just tried them on for the first time.
It makes them. I got the toe ones too, but I just got these yesterday. The ones with just the goofy toe box.
Yeah.
But it makes running so fun because it's like you have to be very conscious of how you're running, and that makes running not boring.
Right.
When you have to be conscious of every motion, it actually just makes it really fun.
That's
you would
cool.
think it'd be like, oh, this is a pain in the ass. I don't want to think. It's the opposite.
Where do you run?
I just run around the city. I run the East River a lot.
Because you live in Manhattan?
I live in Manhattan, yeah. Where do you live?
We live right on the Boston line in a town called Milton.
So you stayed kind of local.
We stayed pretty close, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Those are awesome.
Yeah. So that's cool that you're doing that with your kids, though.
Yeah. They don't think so. They kind of think they're basically the same age. They're a year apart. So
How old are they?
They're 7 and 6, and then there's a 2-year-old too. But
that's nice. Congratulations.
Thanks. It's fun. It is fun to watch them out there. And but I was thinking about that movement thing. I do a bit of like, I like trees a lot, and so. Or gardening, and it is that wild thing when you are like pruning a tree, and that feeling of like being able to move is like compared to them, they'll live 300 years, and movement's just it's just relative to them. We're these little like bees, buzzing around. It's pretty inconsequential, except we have this ability to move our hands and to move.
Everything we do is movement.
And so we can
movement, writing, everything. It's movement.
We can free a tree that's, a tree that's fallen on another tree. We can go and fix that. And if we didn't do that, that tree would be over that smaller tree for the rest of time. So, but all it takes for us is like a little, just a little bit of. We can do it. It's crazy being human.
It is crazy. Well, there's like this. Like, I went down a rabbit hole when I got home from that party, and I Google. The information hasn't been taken off yet. Where brain arose to facilitate movement. You throw that in the old search engine, and then it took me down this thing where this organism that does move in the early stages of its life, but it's like a sea creature, and then it attaches itself to a rock, and that's where it's going to be forever. And at that point, it digest its nervous system. Like that's how much the brain is to facilitate movement. Like this thing has a brain, and then as soon as it's attached, it's like not gonna need you anymore. Right. Your calories now.
I'll just eat you.
It eats its own brain basically. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. I think that's pretty interesting.
Yes. I wonder if we'll ever do that to ourselves.
Well, we try to through meditation in some kind of way, like stop the incessant thoughts and all that kind of stuff. And do you
stay still?
Do you practice any kind of conscious like manifestation stuff? Like, do you pay attention to your thoughts? Do you direct your thoughts?
I think about a time when I'll be able to do that.
Meditation.
But I always kick it down the line. I things are just so with the 3 little kids, I guess, or just myself. These are just excuses. But
no, I mean whatever.
It's crazy.
You probably do meditate. You're obviously successful at manifesting a great life, man. So no need to kick yourself.
We did. The best moments for me at home. It's like we. Kind of the way Elias sleeps. We all sleep in one room, and we have 2 mattresses right next to each other.
That's amazing.
And so
the whole family.
Yeah. So
that's
5 of us.
Beautiful, dude.
So it's and they all.
And you adopted that from being in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, I think, and yeah, basically it's like they in other cultures it's not
just in our culture that it's not acceptable.
And Carmen sleeps with y'all. right?
I have an 8-year-old, but
Yeah.
ever since the last, I don't know, couple of years, she just came into the bed and it was impossible to get her out. But now we're slowly reversing that. But
Yeah.
I have friends in Israel who sleep like 6 or 7 of them in one mattress,
Yeah.
and they're like, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, we have our mattress tucked in a corner, so it can. Sometimes we'll do the fan, so it'll be like my wife. Our feet will all go like this, and sometimes we'll be like this, like our heads are in a fan. When it gets a little crowded, when we're all like 5, in a row, but it's nice to fan out, and then we get a little bit more room.
3 is but you're talking anything past 3 is logistics.
But
they got 2 mattresses.
Yeah.
They got 2 mattresses.
They don't. But the thing is, they
probably 2 king size, right?
The 2 kings next to each other.
That's a lot of real estate. Bro.
It is.
That's a lot of real estate.
The thing is, two kings, but we end up on one though. We end up on one every night.
All 5.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
One king gets.
Do they fight who sleeps next to mommy and that
a little bit, but typically so they sleep in 3 are in one, and Sybil and I are in the other, and then first the 2-year-old comes over at like 2:30 in the morning, and she actually usually goes to sleep with Sybil, but she'll come to me in those situations. So then I got her locked in, and then the boy comes at like 3:30. He locks in with the mom, and then the oldest girl, the 7-year-old, comes at like 4:30, and she comes to my left usually. So it's usually like Frida, me, Charlie Bird, Ellie, Sybil.
That's amazing. I think that's amazing.
That's as good as I get to my meditation. That's like my happy space.
That's definitely. I mean, it's not. I don't know. I'm no expert on meditation. I try to do it, like whatever. So that's really cool. How'd you guys? Was that a decision to like keep everybody in the same room, or
I don't know. I think
just naturally.
Yeah, because we had a room set up for them. Where at first they were sleeping in that,
and
then we had the room in our bedroom for another king. Like we didn't, we live in a small cape, but there's 2 bedrooms upstairs, but our room's big enough and just like shaped enough so a king fit like perfectly into this nook just to this right of ours. So. I guess I credit my wife with just being like, yeah, let's just all sleep together. And I'm like, great.
Yeah.
Because I grew up on the farm. My brothers and I, we all slept in this loft, the 3 of us. So we were always
communal.
It was always communal, and we'd always listen to music. Every night we'd listen to music going to sleep, and we'd climb up the ladder, and there was 4 mattresses up there, and it'd be like Ben, me, Willie, and then our Metco student Gerald, who got bussed in from the city.
Metco student?
Yeah, it's like a bunch of the kids in like Dorchester and Roxbury, African American kids would come out and come to our school. It's called like Metco. I forget what it stands for. And some families like kind of adopt those kids, and so we kind of did.
Yeah.
Gerald Jones was our.
That's awesome.
He was rad. So he had his mattress, and then Willie and Ben and me. So we all slept up there anyways. Yeah, it was super fun. So I think it was a little carryover from that, and then Sybil just being like, yeah, let's just do that. Like, it seems easier, and me being like, great.
How has becoming a family man and being a father like affected your craft?
It kind of takes over, but it's not something you mind. The time is hard. It's hard to find time to really get in.
But isn't there that thing, like if you want something done, make sure you ask a busy person to do it?
Maybe, yeah.
A little bit?
It is true. Like I'll have, because Charlie Bird, our youngest, is still at home. So my wife and I, she works too. So we'll split up the week. And so we'll just hand her off to each other as the other one works.
Where does she work?
So she's a interior designer and does a lot of like architectural rebuild type stuff.
When she like designs other people's interiors, do they think she's nuts for suggesting 2 king size beds in their bedroom?
As a designer, she's very careful not to impose her own. She wants to pour gas on there.
So here you want 2 king size. You're like, what?
Yeah, well, she grew up with 6 brothers and sisters. So
wow.
So she's and they had lived in a small house, so their house was very communal by necessity, or just because they were confined, 8 people confined within.
Mm-hmm.
And their house growing up too, I didn't know them. They were a couple towns over, but their house too was like anyone who had trouble with their parents would go to the Gallagher's house. So their house just had, if you went, well, even when we first met, I'd go over there and there'd be like 3-4 other kids I didn't know there, along with their 6 kids.
That's
all around the dinner table. It was fun. So, but so with Charlie Bird, it's like, it is kind of like, okay, she's napping. I know I have an hour and a half or 2 hours to really, and I need that because I'm kind of flaky and kind of like ADD, so it is kind of helpful to just be like, all right, I have this time. I got to fucking kick myself in the ass to try to finish some tunes.
Do you tour still a lot?
Yeah, Dispatch got back together. We have like kind of a rebirth in the last like 2 years, and so we did a big tour. We've done some big summer tours, and in between that, I've done we just released a solo record, and now we're on the beginning of a Chadwick Stokes and the Pintos tour, and so last night was our first night of that.
I love that album cover.
Yeah,
that's great. Is that the band member? And that's Charlie Bird?
That's Ellie Van, the boy.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
Ellie.
so he's like 5.
Well, the reason I thought it was maybe a little girl is because it says the future is still
I know,
female,
well, it's good. You can kind of, and he has.
So then I I was like, oh, that's cute. I said that's a reference to her. I said it. I thought.
Well, his name is Ellie too, and he has hair like down to here.
Yeah, it's long hair.
So everyone thinks he's a girl.
Yeah.
But I did like that he was a bit androgynous on the cover, and he's on my brother Willie's shoulder.
And, I was wondering that. Is that like, because I was like, where are you?
Yeah, I'm not there.
That's funny.
But my brother and my son are there.
It's a cool album cover.
Well, it's funny because
but I would think people would think the album's called "The Future Is Still Female." We almost
wanted to do that, but that picture wasn't like so thought out, and that statement is a bit. I think it was enough just to have it in the picture as opposed to make. So we did like a eponymous. Yeah. So we
or whatever.
Well, like maybe the future. It's brought up a lot of discussion. Maybe why does it have to be female? Why can't it be gender fluid or binary or?
Well, exactly. That's the thing about that kind of thing is like it's exclusive.
Yeah. We still believe in that. I believe in to be a huge power shift away from men and towards women.
Yeah.
And that will make every society better.
Probably.
But it is it's not something I wanted to double down on with the name.
No, it's a good photo though. It's a good album cover.
Thanks. And those are the bandmates. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering then if you're not on it.
Right. Everyone else is.
But you're kind of egoless, man. To not put yourself in the mix.
I don't think I've ever been on an album cover. But it wasn't by design that I wasn't there. If it was a good picture and I was in it, it would have gone on.
Right.
I wasn't so egoless that I was like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like it had the most kind of mojo of all the shit we were looking at for covers.
Right. It's got some serious mojo to it.
When Dispatch started up again 2 years ago, I'm on the cover with naked on the cover. So,
okay, so you got it. Yeah. You got it worked out.
It's my backside. Yeah.
Full male nudity.
Yeah.
No. Full frontal. No.
Full backle.
Full backle. So, what kind of shows are you guys playing with Dispatch? Is it huge places or?
They'll be like they're not like the Gardens,
right.
But they're. We did the tennis center.
Forest Hill Stadium.
Forest Hills.
So it was like
big.
small.
That's huge, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, for most people.
Yeah, no, it feels huge to me. I mean,
yeah.
So we're doing like the Greek in LA and.
That's great.
So you're doing well.
Yeah, I don't. The Dispatch thing, I have to pinch myself because I keep thinking it'll kind of go away. But the resurgence has been helpful because we're on the radio for the first time and people really embraced the new records. We had 2 new records, and so it did kind of like it started gaining its own momentum. But this is without one of our original members, It's a bassist, Pete Francis.
And you met him in college. Who's who you started the band with?
Yeah,
right?
he's who I went up to at my.
It was called Thrush.
Hermit Thrush. Yeah.
Okay, not loving that band name. Isn't Thrush like a
mouth disease?
Yeah, dude.
I know, that's why I think it's cool.
No, it's actually good.
It's good.
But
trust me, dude, it's good.
It's good, bro. I mean,
it's better than any other band names I've been a part of, I think.
Dispatch is cool.
It's all right.
You don't like it?
I like it. We were One Fell Swoop before we were Dispatch, and Dispatch is better than One Fell Swoop.
Yeah, Dispatch I like.
Yeah, it's like, it's easy enough.
Yeah. So
and it can mean like to kill, or it can mean like get the word out.
Yeah, that's cool. To kill, maybe you should do both. Kill and get the word out. Kill or be killed.
What order?
I don't know. That's a deep. I'm gonna have to go on a run and get back to you on that. Get my brain going for that one. But so Pete Francis, you met at the New School.
I met him in Vermont.
In Vermont.
And his band was playing our orientation, my freshman orientation.
Yeah.
And I went up to him and I said, I play the trombone.
As you do.
And he said, all right.
I need one of those.
He goes, I need one of those. And so I started playing trombone.
I was going to make a joke. I was like, I need one of those. No, I don't. I need, but that's a bad joke.
And then I said, I play guitar and have some songs too, and started working those into them.
Yeah. And what was special about the collaboration that made it become what it became?
Well, then he was playing with this other guy, and then we dropped Hermit Thrush and joined forces with this other guy. We were a trio. And I think it was Pete and I were roommates too. We became roommates not long after that. And so we were very close, very intimate, and like just like best friends, and in the band together. And Brad was a little older than us, and but I think it was this singing. Like Pete has this like very full voice, and then Brad, who's like a master of harmonies, just naturally. Mm-hmm. And then Brad and I have a similar voice, more reedy, and so the combination of Brad's like technical skills with his harmony and Pete's full voice rounding it out, it was kind of like that vocal blend that I thought made the band special.
And you guys just put out a record, and
yeah, we put out a record in the Graveyard Shift in Denver, Colorado. We messed up the time, and they said, well, you guys can come in at 9 p.m. every night for 2 weeks, and so we did that. 9 to 3 a.m., 9 to 4.
In Denver?
Yeah.
Why? How are you in Denver?
The Brad was from Denver.
Oh, so you guys traveled out to Denver to record.
Yeah, we drove a Westphalia out there and recorded our first record there.
Interesting. And that was the one that Napster kind of picked up on?
No, it's the next one. Elias is the last song on that one.
Yeah.
On the first one. But it was the next, the General and Bang Bang and Two Coins, these other, probably the other biggest songs were on the next record.
And then, so how did you wind up going to Real World when you went to Real World for your solo stuff?
I think I'd put out a list of producers I wanted to work with, and I remember driving back from Buffalo in the rain in the van, and being like, and our manager saying, Tchad Blake's interested. We'd sent him the demos.
Okay.
And he said he was interested. I remember talking to him like you're talking to a god or something.
Yeah.
Like, is this really happening?
Was it Soul Coughing that was like inspiring you to call Tchad?
It was the first time I'd ever known what a producer was. It's when I looked to be like, how are they getting this sound? Mm-hmm. What's a producer do? I didn't really know any of that. Right. But I saw produced by Tchad Blake. And he was the first guy I ever connected a name with that occupation.
Right. That's interesting.
So then to talk to him.
Kind of for me too, because like when I first went to Real World to get, like when I got signed and they were looking for producers, Tchad was like one of the guys that was, loomed large.
Yeah.
Brian Eno as well.
Yeah. The big names.
Yeah. But what did working with Tchad do to your music?
I loved Chad, and he I guess it just formed how I worked in the studio ever since.
Oh yeah.
You know, like get in there, play the songs like 4 times, and he'd be like, this track sounds like a record, but the next take sounds dangerous. I want to go with that. You know, like this sounds polished and good, and you guys are on the click, or you're not on the click, but you're on time with each other. It sounds just right. But this other track this next take is a little bit off the rails, has that little something. So I liked how he had the confidence. I would have never had the confidence to like go with that latter track. And so ever since then, when you're choosing which take to take from the band, I always think about him.
Right. Going that line between, you know, something being like lame and amazing is really thin.
Yeah.
You know, or something that like kind of sucks, but is actually genius.
But when he's saying it, you're just like, yes.
It's really that, like the producer is somebody who imbues you with that real confidence to make the dangerous choices. Yeah. Ideally. Yeah. And he encapsulates that
for sure
better than just about anybody I know.
Yes. So that album's like fast, and it's kind of charging.
Yeah. And before that, you didn't ever think of your albums as even being produced. They were just things you recorded or something.
We did them, or self-produced.
You
yeah.
But you weren't even thinking along those lines. You were just like, we're just recording.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. They got a lot better with him.
Yeah.
Our early recordings are bad. They're okay.
He has a 2:00 hard stop because he's got to go.
What time is it?
We got 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So I'd hate to wrap it up, but we have to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Is there time for that? When you weren't here, Joe, he did 2 songs from the new album, which were great for a session, and you told that story about your favorite drummer.
Yeah.
Is there time for that? Is that a 5-minute story?
You want to hear the full story? Yeah,
Joe
sure.
didn't hear it, and it's really
sure. You appreciate it, I think.
I can't wait.
So through a song on that Tchad Blake record called Gang of Thieves, Tom Morello became a fan of that song.
Okay.
And would play it on his radio station that he was playing it, and then
what radio station?
He had like a
Sirius
a little
or something?
Yeah, like a precursor to the Night Watchman.
Oh, okay.
Kind of radio thing. I don't know if you know Tom.
I do. He played with my band Fistful of Mercy with Ben Harper and Danny Harrison. We did Conan, and Tom played with us.
Amazing.
He's amazing.
And he really should be a talk show host.
Yeah, he's very, very outgoing and intelligent.
Yeah, he's amazing. So Tom, we became friends because then he asked State Radio to join him on his Night Watchman tour around the country.
Freedom Fighters Orchestra?
Yeah, I don't know. It was with like Perry Farrell and Wayne Kramer from MC5. And so it was a group of us touring. And he also got State Radio to open up for Rage Against the Machine in 2008 at the DNC. It was a big show at the Denver Coliseum that State Radio opened up for him.
And State Radio
is my band after Dispatch, kind of while Dispatch was broken up.
Right.
So my career is like Dispatch, State Radio, and then solo. So then we're on that tour with Tom, and we're playing the Troubadour, and it's sold out, and all of Tom's friends are there, which may be some of your friends.
Big LA vibes.
Yeah, it was like Slash, Flea, Stuart Copeland, who I thought was Ray Manzarek from The Doors, although thankfully I didn't say anything.
Right, no pressure. No pressure at all.
Cypress Hill is there. Steve Vai is there.
Wow, Steve Vai, like that would have done me in. I wouldn't have been able to go on.
It was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
The names and the people who were there. The Dave Navarro, Jerry Cantrell. All my heroes, because my heroes were all like that scene, that like early 90s scene, LA and Seattle.
Jane's Addiction
was like my teenage fantasies. So we're doing this huge show and we're playing state radios. We're the only band there, and it's like all these stars, whatever.
How come all the stars came out? Just
because it's LA,
or like,
yeah.
And you guys were happening. Or?
Not really. I'm sure it was just to hang with Tom.
I mean, it must have been y'all too.
That's nice of you to think so. I'll think so myself from here on. But so it was just a crazy show, and then Travis Barker's there and Stuart Copeland I mentioned. But anyway, but Brad Wilk, the drummer for Rage Against the Machine, was turned away by the bouncer, unrecognized.
Wow. Wasn't he on the guest list or no?
No, I think
I don't know. Not. Yeah, obviously not.
So it's a song about my favorite living drummer not being able to let into a venue that I'm in the inside of, and I try to do like the American Pie thing where I tease all these names in the song in a slightly different way. I say like the chorus is like, I've seen roses and I've seen guns, hills of cypress blinking in the sun. So it's like
keep going.
Hills of cypress blinking in the sun. There's a flea in the machine. Yeah, I saw Alice addicted to Jane. She had her wrapped up in chains.
This is great.
And the
I thought
the police, they were all the rage, and the door was thin, but my favorite living drummer was not let in. And the bouncer's reading The Rats of Nim, but my favorite living drummer is not let in.
Great, dude. That's a great lyric, regardless of even the story. Just in and of itself. Do you do that a lot? Do you take things out of life and make them into songs? Or
usually it's not.
Extreme?
That's like more coherent, and extreme than usual.
And too bad Nuno Betancourt wasn't there. Then you could have said extreme in the lyrics too.
Nuno, my Boston compatriot.
Yeah.
Cool.
He doesn't age. I follow him on Instagram, but
I bet.
Yeah, he did this one post with him and his 25-year-old self. They looked exactly the same.
You're like,
it was like, what happening? The fuck, dude? Man, thank you for doing the podcast.
Yeah, man, it's been an honor.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, man, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chadwick. Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come-to-where-I'm-from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.